There are so many of them.
Man, there are some with a lot of locomotives.
Some have been tagged and some are in bad shape. I was actually thinking about that.
Honestly,
it's impressive, you know? Yeah, really, there must be at least 100 of them. Hello everyone, how are you? Gabriel here.
And Corentin, and today we're here to explore one of the largest TGV cemeteries in France.
2 years ago, we released a video about the abandoned Autolib cars, an electric car system that was set up in Paris, and all those cars ended up abandoned. We were able to explore this really fascinating place, and while doing our research, we came across photos of a TGV graveyard in France that was more or less comparable, and we really wanted to see this TGV graveyard with our own eyes.
We saw pictures showing about 100 TGV train sets and thought they couldn't be in France. We wanted to see for ourselves. And we found it. Vehicle graveyards have always intrigued us, and you should know that there are plenty of them around the world, with all kinds of different vehicles, whether they're military vehicles, cars, or even trains. So, a train graveyard was something we had never really explored before, except in the United States. But this time, seeing our TGVs abandoned in France was truly different.
And above all, what's fascinating is seeing the same vehicle repeated dozens of times. It's really super impressive. You might think it's just Photoshop, but no, it's absolutely real. In this video, we've decided to go see this famous TGV graveyard with our own eyes, but we also want to discover other SNCF trains that have been left abandoned.
And that's why, before going to this graveyard, we're going to visit another graveyard first, where we'll find some abandoned trains, unfortunately in a very sad state.
When we arrive on site, we'll notice that there are far fewer SNCF trains than we imagined. Many have already been recycled. And so we can already see that SNCF is really very active when it comes to abandoned trains.
Because the number of abandoned trains we'll come across in France is actually much higher than you might think.
You may have already seen at your city's station an abandoned train waiting for an uncertain fate at the end of a platform.
By the way, a quick warning, never go on the tracks or check out abandoned trains, as some are under overhead wires that are still live. There is a deadly danger around these abandoned trains, so be very careful and avoid these sites. So you see in this first graveyard where there are a lot of tracks, we don't see any TGVs, but rather old locomotives like, for example, EADs, diesel multiple units, or even Z7300 or 7500. These are trains built in France in the 1970s that are no longer in service.
You should also know that there are many stations that have been abandoned and many tracks that are covered by vegetation due to premature abandonment. This is likely because railway lines are often updated, leading to many routes being abandoned.
And especially the line we were on, which was abandoned and is no longer used for passenger transport, but later had a second use for freight.
And so, in addition to all these tracks and all these stations, there are many abandoned trains in France, as we told you, because France is a country that updates its trains very often in order to maintain a certain level of comfort and modernity for passengers. And when we were there, we noticed that there were far fewer trains than we had imagined, even though from Google Maps in aerial view, you could see that there were really dozens of trains stored here, and we couldn't find any more information about why all these trains were stored here.
It's often hard to find info on certain train graveyards, and this one is no exception, adding to its mystery. The trains here will never move again and are only left to scavengers and graffiti writers.
If you know what these trains were doing here or where they've gone, please let us know in the comments.
This train graveyard was just an appetizer, and we had no idea how incredible what we'd see next would be. So here, in the middle of nowhere, we're going to get close to this graveyard, and right away we'll start seeing these TGV trains behind fences and branches, and we're really going to be impressed. There they are.
Impressed, okay. There are so many of them, man.
There are some with a lot of locomotives.
Some have been tagged, others are in bad shape.
Honestly, it's impressive.
Yeah. There are so many of them. There must be a good 100 of them, right. And there you see there aren't any left in this area. Yeah, they were likely taken apart, it's no secret. That's incredible. And it goes so far, right? The length, yeah, it's crazy, right? On this first pass in the car, we'll also realize that the land where the TGVs are located is military land, which does change things a bit.
And just like we did before in the Urbex story, where we explored abandoned ship graveyards, we're going to decide not to go in, because that exposes us to a lot of legal risks, and since we've already had legal issues with the French army or with the French state, we don't want to break the law again, so we'll stay outside to take our footage. But don't worry, we have a drone.
And by following this famous fence, we're going to try to find a little high spot to get a nice view of the trains. It will be complicated because they intentionally set up the fences to block all accessible spots. And by the way, in these fences, we're going to make quite a discovery. We'll find a lot of holes that are really tempting to go through, but we're not going to cross that famous boundary so we don't get into trouble with SNCF.
Gabriel and Corentin will behave for once and stay off that property. And by the way, don't hesitate to give this video a thumbs up. It would make us really happy. And leave a comment too if you know more about this kind of cemetery. It's super interesting for us. So thank you to everyone who gives a thumbs up and leaves a comment. So, the trains in front of us, you've probably already seen them at the station because they're very easy to recognize with their little bluish color. These are the TGV Atlantiques that were produced between 1988 and 1992.
These trains were among the few at the time to reach 300 kilometers per hour, which remains impressive. And in this TGV graveyard, there are many train sets that are legendary in the railway world, especially train set 325, which holds the official world speed record on rail. It actually reached the incredible speed of 515 kilometers per hour on May 18, 1990, and this record would be broken in 2007.
White livery.
White livery. Valent, and for movie buffs, train set 336 present on site is a TGV train set that appeared in one of the Mission Impossible movies.
And unfortunately, there are also train sets that have a somewhat sadder story. For example, train set 360, which on the night of Thursday, January 3, 1991, ended up without a driver, and despite all the brakes being applied for 6 kilometers, crashed at a speed of 70 km/h into Montparnasse station.
It's possible the train sets ahead are ones we've used or even you've used before. It's surreal to consider that. And if all these TGVs are abandoned today, it's because they were gradually taken out of service starting in 2015.
They were retired in favor of today's TGV Inouï, which features more purple and will soon be replaced by the TGV M. This shows how fast the railway industry changes.
And it's completely crazy to see how fast things move and how quickly they're taken out of service when you know the price of a TGV, because the price of one of these TGV Atlantique trains was around 19 million euros.
But why did all these trains end up there? That's a question we can ask ourselves. In fact, SNCF entrusted the entire dismantling of these trains to a French company, which is responsible for recovering them and reusing the raw materials. The company in question therefore built a site specifically to receive these 104 trains and completely dismantle them.
We actually noticed when we arrived that there were far fewer trains present than we had seen on Google Maps, and these trains were also insulated with asbestos and fiberglass.
That's why it was really necessary to build a special site to handle this waste, which is very toxic to humans.
And some of these trains have been waiting here for a long time because the oldest train here has already been here for 4 years.
And by the way, what's crazy is that I was looking on a website and apparently they recently celebrated their 53rd dismantled TGV. So there are only 50 TGVs left, with 25 still in service, so theoretically we only have 25 remaining. Yeah, we had a lot more than that.
Maybe it's because, you see, there were some parts, so 25 and a half, you see, they consider it finished.
While using the drone, we saw many of them. There was also a part we missed that branched off at a right angle.
In any case, it's really very sad to see all these iconic trains waiting for future dismantling, just left to nature and taggers. Damn taggers.
Personally, it was amazing to see so many TGVs in front of us, especially when we used the drone and saw just how many there were. It was impressive. I don't know about you, but it was remarkable.
I felt a kind of satisfaction, like seeing them all lined up is super satisfying. You get the feeling it's going to go on forever.
For those of us who love exploring, it was tempting to go past the gate and discover what was inside the old TGV trains. Unfortunately, we didn't do it. In the end, it's good we avoided doing anything foolish that day.
We had really wanted to visit this place for a very long time. As soon as we saw the first photos, we were really shocked, and it was really something to find ourselves in front of all those abandoned TGV trains. We strongly advise against going there even if there are holes in the fence. It's very dangerous and you absolutely must not go through them.
We remind you once again that it's located on military grounds and you're taking a huge risk if you ever dare to go there.
In any case, we hope you enjoyed seeing this place that's frozen in time.
We don't always take risks, but sometimes we think we should be more reasonable and at least show you exceptional images like these.
Especially since at the time this video is coming out, it was just a week ago that we went to trial, so we don't have the results yet. A video will likely be posted soon to wrap up this matter.
Since at the time we're filming this video, it's true that in a month we'll be going before the court and we're a bit nervous about it, right?
Thank you all for watching this video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to like it, share it, and don't hesitate to leave us a comment to let us know what you thought.
We'll see you next Saturday at 6 p.m. This was Gabriel and Corentin. Goodbye.
Bye. Sorry, I forgot.
It's okay, it's okay.